Hello guys, and welcome to my video review of the upcoming Horns of the Reach patch notes. So this is an exciting patch that's coming out in August. We're not even going to talk about the new content it's bringing. We're just going to talk about the balance changes that are made, namely the changes to traits and proc sets. So this is a great video. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's get started. Okay, so item sets. Let's talk about the proc sets. Oh man. So if you guys know a little bit about me and what I've done in ESO, I am vehemently against proc sets because in the past there has been no way to intelligibly counter them with your build outside of just being tanky enough to take the burst, which really sucks. But they've made quite a few changes to proc sets this patch, and that, in my opinion, really make them great. And, you know, they're not going to be great for PvP now. A lot of the changes that they've made to proc sets add some sort of a delay to the set itself or make it a damage over time or whatever. It makes it so the set itself has some way of being avoided by your opponent. And that is all I've ever wanted from these proc sets, is some way for me to mitigate the proc set damage through my own gameplay when I'm getting attacked by a guy with proc sets. I would go as far to say that if you want a PvP, I think proc sets are probably a terrible decision to use in PvP now, because you're very likely not going to land a lot of your procs anymore. And that's just simply because of how these changes went down. The fun fact about it is that the damage values on these proc sets has remained relatively the same. A few of them have been buffed a little, a few of them have been nerfed a little, but don't worry, most of them remain relatively the same. Just how they function has changed a little bit, meaning that if you use your proc sets in PvE, they will be the same this patch as they are in live right now. But if you use proc sets in PvP, you will no longer get hand-holding crutch kills. They won't, it just won't work. You will miss. Okay, a good player is going to dodge your attacks and kill you. So I would not recommend proc sets for PvP now. Still great for the PvE stuff though. So let's take a look at it. So we're going to start by taking just a quick peek at some of these universal values. Max health, magicka, and stamina has been increased by 13.3% on all 1, 2, 3, and 4-piece bonus stats for sets. So this is great. This means that if you have 900 max magicka as a 2-piece right now, it's going to go up to about 1,000 max magicka, just a little bit over. So it'll be pretty cool to see that. This is going to pretty much result in everybody having a little bit higher max stats than they do at the moment once this patch hits live. Weapon critical and weapon spell critical rating has been increased by 55%. This is a huge buff to weapon and spell critical rating. This means that if you have a weapon crit in your 2-piece, it actually gives you 5% crit, as opposed to around the 3.5% crit that it used to give you. 5% crit per a weapon and spell critical piece. This makes sets like Hunding's Rage incredibly attractive for stamina builds, because now the crit is worth a lot more than it used to. Hunding's Rage effectively got a whole nother extra weapon critical thrown on top of it. So I'm pretty excited about this. I'm happy to see a little bit of move towards crit builds, and I'd love to see what people can come up with on crit builds in the future. And this patch is going to be the patch for crit builds, guys. So if you want to play crit, I'd recommend you start doing it now. Physical or spell penetration has been physical or spell resistance has been increased by 13%, which is great. Do a little bit more physical and spell resistance. And then physical and spell penetration has been decreased by 22%. And this is just to kind of go along with the whole nerfing the penetration route of damage, just because penetration was kind of overperforming overall in determining how much damage you do. Blood Spawn got a little bit of an alt decrease from 14, goes down to 14 from 15. Grothdar decreased the damage on this item set's proc by 10%. Grothdar was a little bit too powerful IMO, so I'm glad to see the damage on that one go down a bit. Elambris also got a bit of a damage increase. Elambris is a lot less popular than Grothdar, but I'm sure for trials, range DPS, Elambris is a popular set, so there you have it. Niranith got a huge damage increase at 20%. Niranith is an interesting proc set that leaves a crystal behind that takes a few seconds to explode, so I was happy to see a bit of a damage increase on that set, as it's just relatively not used because it's just not that great a set before. So I hope that maybe we see a few people using this set now. Poisonous Serpent increased the proc chance of this item set to 50% from 25%, but decreased the damage to 3,400 poison damage from 6,800 poison damage. I think this is the only proc set that's still going to do a decent amount of damage instantly. Outside of Poisonous Serpent, there's just not going to be a lot of proc sets that will do a lot of damage. So Poisonous Serpent's probably still going to be like best in slot for instant damage proc sets. So maybe PvP. The only thing is that you do need to do stuff to get Poisonous Serpent to proc on your opponent as well. Selene, this item set's proc now displays a hostile telegraph to enemy players indicating its area of effect. Very easy to dodge is all I can really say about it. I went on the PTS and I fought a guy using Selene and he procced it 7 times and he didn't hit me once. So it's very easy to avoid now, and it gives you about a second of warning, so you can actually, like, counter Selene. It's very easy to not just get wrecked by that instant damage proc now that there's a bit of delay on it. You can easily avoid it, allowing you to continue the fight and not let the fact that this guy wore a 2-piece helm set be the dictator of who's the better player. Celestrix increased the damage of this proc by 30%. Celestrix, of course, it was a bit of an AoE damage proc. Decrease the time it takes for the proc to erupt to 1.5 seconds from 2 and increase the cooldown to 5.5 seconds. A little bit of changes there. Shadowrend got changed quite a bit this patch. Changed this item's proc set to occur when you take damage instead of when you deal it on a 15% chance instead of 5 now. And the monster summoned by this proc this set's proc now deals magic damage instead of physical damage. They also increase the duration of the minor maim to 10 seconds. So this is honestly a more attractive set now. This is going to be great for like distance mages and you know, Templars or DKs who want to run Necropotence. It's a great offset to have with it. Shadow of the Red Mountain got probably the worst treatment out of all the proc sets. This item set proc now spawns a volcano that erupts after 1 second and launches a projectile at the closest enemy. Not only is there a 1 second delay on this, but it has to shoot a projectile at you, and the amount of time it takes the projectile to reach you is like another half a second. So this makes Shadow of the Red Mountain incredibly easy to dodge. So very good change for this set, as it will still deal a ton of damage to someone who's not actively avoiding it, but if you're playing like a squishier build that's a little bit quicker, can roll more, you won't get destroyed by some guy's Red Mountain proc. You're just going to dodge it now. Shield Breaker, this item set's proc now only occurs once for each cast of lightning and restoration heavy attacks. Fucking dope. Sorry, there's no words that I have other than that is really great. Shield Breaker was proccing on all ticks of those heavy attacks, and you straight up could just heavy attack a Sork down, like with 1 or 2 heavy attacks. So this is a really good change. Slime Craw got some lovely treatment. Changed the 1-piece bonus to a double 1-piece of both weapon and spell critical chance instead of health recovery. So Slime Craw already gives you 8% bonus to all your outgoing damage. Now it gives you weapon and spell critical, uniquely moving Slime Craw into one of, if not the best monster set for just burst damage in the game. Absolutely incredible, man. 8% bonus damage and 5% weapon and spell crit. What a great 2-piece set. I really like this change to Slime Craw. I'm a lover of this set, so I'm really excited to see Slime Craw get a little bit more OP. Spawn of Mephala got a little bit of a damage increase, and the 1-piece bonus is now max stamina, so aiming at the stamina builds with that one. Veladrith, this item's proc set now occurs after a 1 second delay and displays a warning visual on the set wearer when the proc occurs. So this is the same deal as Selene. You get a lot of warning before it's going to come, so it allows you to easily dodge this attack. So like I said, if you want to use this set in PvP, I wouldn't recommend using it anymore. Yeah, sure, in previous patches it gave you a lot of free instant damage, but now people are just going to dodge it. You're honestly better off using a different set that increases the damage of the skills that you time that people won't dodge. So yeah. Viper's Sting, this proc set now deals its damage over 4 seconds instead of dealing it instantly. Viper's Sting's still going to be good. It's still going to be a strong set, but by no means is it going to allow people to just have insane burst damage for free. And I like this change. You know, it gives them that damage that they had before, that damage over time. It also adds counterplay to it. You can purge this dot. I did fight a guy using Viper Sting on the PTS, and I just purged it. I mean, the same guy running Vipers and Selenes. He's just totally useless outside of his sets when they were dodgeable and they now had counterplay. He just did no damage. So there you have it, man. Viper set, still a great set for PvP, but it's not going to be nearly what it was from the burst department. And then Widowmaker. This item set now drops a spore on the ground in front of you that explodes after 1 second instead of instantly dealing unavoidable damage. So there we see that same thing of a 1 second delay before it deals its damage. So all of these sets, as you can see, were changed to have counterplay to them. That was pretty much it. They were all adjusted to give it a little bit of counterplay. You know, there's the ones like Grothdar, these are AoEs. The counterplay, of course, which used to be not to stand in it, and so on. But at least there is a little bit of counterplay to these proc sets now. I honestly really like these changes. I'm really happy to see these sets get absolutely nerfed for PvP. In my opinion, all they did was create a PvP environment based on RNG and not on gameplay or skill at all. So it's really great to see them go. I can't wait to see people start playing real ESO again, and I can't wait to see stamina builds come back. I'm sorry, for the longest time, all stamina builds have just been proc builds, and that is not a build, okay? You're not actually doing anything when you play a proc build like that. It's doing it all for you. So it'll be great to see real builds come back now. It'll be great to see, like, some actual builds come into the game and not just Viper Celine, you know? Anyway. Something interesting to note is that Fire Rune has been changed so that it is now hidden from enemy player characters. So Fire Runes is that little rune that people throw on the ground, and if you step on it, it shoots you into the air. So it's pretty cool that they made this invisible to enemy players because it allows you to basically set a trap in front of you. So this is going to make Fire Rune probably a much more attractive skill for PvP in the future. I'm really excited to see how people utilize this ability with this new change to it. Another big change here, Major and Minor Defile now affect and decrease the enemy's health recovery in addition to decreasing their healing received. This is a big deal. Health regen builds are relatively uncounterable at the moment outside of extreme burst damage. So this is going to be a great counter to those builds. It'll force them to either run a purge or to not have good health recovery anymore. So it's pretty cool. I like that they added this because things like Troll King were getting a little bit out of hand. So this is a great kind of offset to those kind of sets and builds. So let's talk a little bit now about the Mundus stones. Now they changed a lot with how the Mundus stones work, and I quite approve these changes, so let's go over them a little bit. The Apprentice, they increased the spell damage to 238 from 167. Same with our Warrior Mundus. So our spell and weapon damage has been increased to 238 from 167. The Atronach and the Serpent, which is our recovery Munduses, have also been increased to 238 from 167. So all of these have got a little bit of a boost, which is great. That's going to allow you to hit a little bit harder, have a little bit more sustain. And then finally, the increased max magicka, health, and max stamina, our Tower Lord and Mage. These all got buffed by a lot too. Max Magicka, Max Stamina to be noted as some of the biggest ones, 1,300 up to 2,000, so a huge buff there. The Max Health one, of course, has a value of 22,000, so it's still higher than the Magicka Stamina, which is great. And this is awesome. You know, the Mage Mundus in the past has been relatively a bad choice, so it's pretty cool to see that this has been buffed up to a much better value. As for the Tower Mundus, I mean, there's not very many builds that benefit too greatly from a huge max stam pool, so it's kind of not that great a Mundus still. The Lover and the Lord, sorry, the Lover and the Lady. Now, these are the other two Munduses that had huge changes as well. This Lady now gives spell resistance in addition to physical resistance. So you get a double resistance of 2,752 spell and physical resistance for using the Lady Mundus, whereas if you go with the Lover, it gives you penetration. Now, penetration in our weapon traits has been kind of nerfed this patch to offset the fact that we have this Mundus here, the Lover. And penetration in general has just kind of been toned down, and it's not a bad thing. Don't worry, guys. I know Sharpened, for example, is best in slot. Don't worry, people who are worried about their Sharpened sets or their Sharpened weapons not being best in slot this patch. Sharpened is still your best option for damage. Don't worry, but we'll get into a little bit of that later on. But anyway, so there you have it. We do have the option to increase our penetration through our Mundus as well now, which is pretty cool. It kind of opens up the road for penetration builds by building it into your gear, which is not really something we've had in the past in ESO. And then finally, the Thief Mundus. Reduces critical strike chance to 9% from 11%. The Thief is probably the most popular Mundus stone in the game at the moment. So they did give it a little bit of a nerf, but don't fret too much. They did buff the crap out of crits. Critical chance in your gear etc. So we'll get onto that in a sec. Okay, so let's take a look at these weapon trait changes that I had mentioned before. So we're going to look at Decisive first. Increase the chance of generating one additional ultimate to 40% from 34%. So keep in mind, guys, these are all the values of a gold champion 160 weapon. So this is a maxed out weapon, and this is what the values are going to give you. So Decisive, you know, not really a huge buff, but at the same time, Decisive is a very unpopular weapon trait choice. Maybe we'll see it crop up a little bit more if someone's playing a really heavy alt build. I could see maybe DKs utilizing this, but still I just don't find Decisive to be too attractive of a weapon trait. Defending, they reduce the physical and spell resistance to 2,752 from 5,160. Keep in mind, guys, if you're using dual wield, these values are all halved because it's only half your offensive weapon is one of your swords. So these are all values for like a gold 160 two-handed weapon, for example. So big change to defending here. It went from about 8% reduced incoming damage to around 5% reduced incoming damage. So a big drop on the defending trait there. Defending was always a very good trait choice for your weapons, so it's a huge drop on defending there. Infused, they increased the bonus values granted to the applied enchant to 30% from 20% and increase the cooldown reduction to 50% from 40%. This is awesome. I mean, I've used infused weapons a long time in ESO, and I quite enjoy them, and this just makes them more powerful. If you have a gold infused weapon with a weapon and spell damage enchant, you will be able to proc that thing almost every time you bust it out, giving you a near 100% uptime on that weapon and spell damage bonus. On top of it, that weapon and spell damage bonus is going to be a base value of like 470. So it's a huge amount of weapon and spell damage to have pretty much up at all times for running an infused off weapon, for example. So infused is a very good trait coming into this patch. Nerfed increased the bonus to weapon damage to 15% from 11%. Now, Sharpened as well. You saw how we talked about defending. Sharpened got the similar treatment, whereas it was giving you around 8% increased damage. It's now dropped to about 5%. So let's look at something like Nerfed and see how that stacks up. Nerfed is going to give you somewhere in the nature of 3 to 4% increased damage versus Sharpened, which is still best in slot at 5% damage. However, Nerfed will also increase your healing, where Sharpened will not, and Nerfed will also increase the damage you do against damage shields, whereas Sharpened will not. So this uniquely, like these changes, I think actually makes Nerfed best in slot for PvP. If you have to heal yourself and you want to deal damage at the same time, I honestly think Nerfed or even Precise is the best way to go. So quite a big buff to Nerfed here. I really like it. I have a few Nerfed weapons that I love to bust out, and I'm not shy to go craft myself some more. So there we have it. Powered coming in at 9% instead of 7% now. Great for the healer builds, making that mundus, or making those weapon traits even more important for running powered for your healers. And then Precise is coming in at 9% instead of 7%. So Precise got a little bit of a buff to offset the loss of crit that we kind of had from losing out on our Thief Mundus. So you'll still have the same amount of crit as you did this patch. Actually, I would go as far to say if you're playing a crit build, you can expect to have around 5 to 10% more crit going into next patch. And we'll talk about why your crit will be a little bit higher. It's just a little bit below here. So Precise is being a very attractive option. I would go as far to say that, like, if you want to set up a really mean dual wield build, Nerfed on your main hand and Precise on your offhand. Nerfed main hand is what will determine your base weapon strength, and being your main weapon, having it Nerfed is going to give you a huge boost to your weapon damage, and then you can go Precise offhand for that big fat amount of crit on the backside as well. So I think that this is going to be one of the best ways to do it, or even a Nerfed main hand and Sharpened offhand for dual wield would be a really good idea, just from a damage kind of perspective. And then finally, guys, we've got Charged, Intricate, Ornate, and Training, and these bad boys are remaining unchanged. As for gear traits, the only one that's getting changed is the Prosperous Armor trait, and it's been redesigned to give you 11 health, magicka, and stamina recovery as a gold quality item instead of gold gain. So this is really cool for any regen build. I can see this working out really well. Using sets like Amber Plasm, you can mix in these Prosperous traits in order to give you more regen. Even even if you're playing a lower regen build, you can use Prosperous traits now to offset your low amounts of regen on your build. So that's a really cool thing that they've added. I've always wanted them to introduce some kind of like weapon damage or sustain into your armor traits, and I'm really happy that, you know, weapon damage we kind of had through Infuse to increase your max stat, but I'm happy to see the sustain hit the gear. It's a really cool gear trait. 11 does seem kind of low, but let's say we have 5 Prosperous gear on. That's 55 base health, magicka, and stamina. And if we're playing, let's say, like a stamina health recovery build, we could easily be looking at gaining around, in the end, 70 to 80 stamina recovery and even over 100 health recovery. So very cool set, or very cool change to this trait. I'm pretty excited for it. I'm a little sad to see the gold farming gear go away. You know, I do like gaining more gold as I kill stuff, so there you have it. Reduce the damage on the Oblivion weapon enchant by approximately 6%. Oblivion weapon enchant being the most popular in PvP at the moment, as it is currently unmitigated by all armor sources. And then finally, weapon enchantments will no longer proc if the initial attack is dodged. I mean, this one is just a bug fix, right? That should always have been like that. I'm just glad to see it is now. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm quite excited for this new patch, and I want to hear what you guys think about it. So if you have any comments on this patch or any opinions, please feel free to post them in that comment section. And as always, guys, have a great day, and I hope to see you next time.